Pelops, son of Tantalus, on his swift steeds came to Pisa in Elis and married Oenomaus' daughter. From her, Atreus was born, and from Atreus, 2 sons, Menelaus and Agamemnon. From him, I was born. I'm Iphigenia, daughter of Tyndareus' daughter. I'm the one he sacrificed to Artemis for Helen's sake, by Euripus' whirling currents where steady winds churn the sea dark in the infamous inlets of Aulis Bay. My own father. At least he thought he had done it. Faced with an inability to sail and lack of wind, he resorted to omens, and the seer Calchas told him, "You who command the army of Greece gathered here, Agamemnon, you will not unmoor your ships from land until Artemis receives your own daughter, Iphigenia, in sacrifice. For once you vowed to offer to the moon goddess the fairest thing the year brought forth. Now in your home, your wife, Clytemnestra, gave birth to a daughter. He awarded me the title fairest, and you must sacrifice her." To my sorrow, I came to Aulis and was lifted up above the altar fire to be butchered with a sword. But Artemis gave the Achaeans a deer in my place, and whisking me away through the shining ether, brought me here to live in the land of the Tauri, a land of savages where savage Thoas is king, who moves his nimble feet as fast as birds' flight. In this temple, she ordained me to be her priestess. From then on, the goddess Artemis has taken pleasure in certain celebrations. Only the name sounds fine. The rest I will keep silent out of fear of the goddess. I only begin the ritual, but the unspeakable slaughter is others' concern inside the god's sacred dwelling. Last night, strange visions visited my dreams. In my sleep, I seemed to be delivered from this place and living in Argos, sleeping among the other girls, when the earth's surface was shaken wave upon wave. That sent me rushing outside, where I saw the capstone of the house falling and the whole roof on the ground, in ruins, collapsed from its highest supporting pillars. In my dream, one column of my father's house was left, standing all by itself. From its capital, locks of hair, flaxen-coloured, hung down. From it came a human sound. In keeping with the art I practice, of killing strangers, in tears I performed the ritual washing of the man who was to die. This is how I interpret the dream. Orestes is dead, and I was beginning his funeral rites. Now I desire to offer libations for my brother, though I am here and he is not. This much I can do.
Hello, welcome to Reading Greek Tragedy Online. I'm Joel Christensen from Brandeis University, and I'm here with the Center for Hellenic Studies and Out of Chaos Theater to bring to you the amazing and bewildering Iphigenia among the Taurians, or Iphigenia and Tauris, by Euripides. Today we have a great cast for you. Alice Haig just read the part of Iphigenia. We have Brian Nelson Jr., Paula Mahoney, Tim Delap, Noree Victoria, and Marietta Hedges. And our special guest, Niall Slater, is here from Emory University. So this week we return to Euripides and the fate of Agamemnon's daughter Iphigenia, and the surprising and challenging play Iphigenia and Tauris. This play joins other Euripidean tragedies like the Helen or his Orestes in presenting alternative accounts of myth and challenging well-known narratives. In this one, the very daughter who was sacrificed to Artemis to start the Trojan War was whisked away to Tauris, where she became a human sacrificing priestess of the goddess. Somehow Orestes and Pylades end up in her hands after their trial at Athens, and well, it turns into something of a heist caper after that. I'm one of many who can't make heads or tails of this tragedy, which is why I'm happy to have Niall here today. And I have probably 1,000 questions for him, but I'll start with the softball. Niall, what's this play all about?
Oh, that's the softball question. There have been various wonderful classifications of this play, and Pippin Burnett wrote a wonderful book about some of the late Euripidean plays that she called Catastrophe Survived, which gathers together. Euripides is doing interesting things in the late 14s and giving us these plays that are in some sense about, as Jack Winkler once saw very clearly, in some sense about the transition to adulthood and those who succeed in managing it. Poor Orestes has to do it twice because we thought he'd solved all his problems by the trial in Athens with which the Oresteia ends, and it turns out that's not quite true. So Euripides almost seems to be doing a rerun of that, but with an exotic setting and adventure, and he'll end up saved in the end. If that's something it's about, I suppose that's as good a description as any.
No, so let's stay with the variation in myth here for a moment, right? I mean, if we're introducing myth in a giant class, we're going to say Iphigenia was sacrificed, and some people say Artemis saved her. And then we talk about Orestes and the ideology for trial by jury in Athens. How do we get here near the Black Sea with these two together again? Is this a type of tale that people would have known about? Or do people generally think that Euripides is just totally making it up here?
Not totally making it up. There are versions already in the cyclic epics in the Cypria, very slight allusions to the notion that, oh no, there wasn't really human sacrifice. Somehow Artemis rescued Iphigenia. Now there are variations on that. They're probably not strongly in the public memory and imagination. They don't seem much to be in the visual record. In vase painting, of course, is one of our major sources simply because that's what tends to survive. But some version is probably out there, making it the Black Sea, making it this particular exotic location, and with this cult of Artemis that in a sense has to be redeemed itself. That probably is surprising. And so the moment that Iphigenia steps out of that facade, we also don't know what that facade looks like in the theater on the day, and we can make it what we want now, but she is she's a surprising figure, a very vulnerable figure, a very appealing figure that most people probably thought they'd never hear from again.
So you mentioned about these plays coming in this clustered period where Euripides keeps going back to, plays that are almost like happy endings, right? In a strange way. We think about the Helen, which is playing upon a well-known tale of Helen being in Egypt for the whole time, or the strange version of Orestes in his other play. Putting them all together there and having this family reunion, it's a strange choice. But all these choices together are appealing to audience interests in some way, right? So one of the things I'm having trouble understanding is what's going on in Athens at this time that would make Euripides make these choices. What are the audiences experiencing that may make them respond to these sort of radical repositionings?
I'm not willing to offer a general theory there. It's always important to remember that what survives to us of Euripides, and especially these interesting and exotic plays, owe their survival as much to the fact that their titles began with the first few letters of the Greek alphabet, and one volume of an alphabetic edition seems to have made the transition to be recopied when things start to be copied again in the Byzantine period. Otherwise, we wouldn't have Iphigenia, we wouldn't have the Helen. So it may be a little bit of an illusion that it's happening here when we don't have 90% of what Euripides was doing in other occasions. For this play, I would think that one of the things that it is doing is possibly reacting to reperformance of the traditional story in the form of the Oresteia. This is not absolutely provable, but I think there's pretty good evidence that the Oresteia, and possibly the Oresteia meaning just the last two plays, not the Agamemnon, had been restaged in Athens not long before this. And that gives Euripides an occasion to rethink that ending or speculate on what might happen after that ending that looks so conclusive.
That's a really good point. And one of the things we talked about last week and weeks before in returning the story of the Oresteia is how this story keeps coming on to the stage in Athens again and again. Last week it was Sophocles' Electra, and we're not done with it yet because we have to hit all of Agamemnon's plays. So one more word from you before we move on to the play. What's something the audience should look for in the performance? What do you see as a key theme or key moments in this play that help us understand its meaning?
The key theme, the key moment, if that qualifies as a whole theme, is very much the bit that Aristotle loved and made this maybe his second favorite tragedy, is that moment of recognition that we are teased with as we come up to in so many ways, as Orestes is not willing to give his name because he doesn't want his name to be sacrificed along with him. And this poor girl who's been separated from everything she knows, this kind of girl interrupted who's been sent off to exile in the land of the Taurians, is remembering her parts of her history, all leading to that great moment of recognition. That seems to be what the audience responded to and most remembered. So
I thank you for pointing that, because the next scene we're about to see features one of the longest recognition scenes in Greek literature, or at least in Greek tragedy, rivaling most of Oedipus Tyrannus, right? Except the difference is we don't actually want the news at the end of Oedipus. It's kind of good news at the end of this scene with this recognition. So after the opening prologue we just saw, Orestes and his often silent friend Pylades enter the stage after they washed up on shore. Orestes relates his troubles since he killed Clytemnestra. The Furies have hounded him. He went at Apollo's advice to the land of the Tauri, commanded to steal a statue of Artemis and bring it home to Athens. He will be delivered of his madness if he does this, according to Apollo, who never lies to anybody, of course. He and Pylades exit the scene, planning to hide in caves along the sea to plot their next move. The chorus enters, and there are Greek women who attend Iphigenia, and they sing with her as she pours libations to the supposedly dead Orestes. A herdsman enters and brings Iphigenia news of the arrival of these strangers, and they've been captured. They're brought before her to be sacrificed in her capacity as priestess of Artemis. She wishes that it was Helen who had been brought before her, or any innocent Greek, and the chorus echoes her. And they describe the passage over the sea and how they got to the land of the Taurians. Orestes and Pylades are brought on stage. They're bound, and they're beheld by the very one who's supposed to condemn them to slaughter. And that's the first scene we'll see today.
Well, first I must take care that the goddesses' ceremonies be done right. Untie their hands. As dedications, they must not be in bonds. Who was the mother that gave you life? And who was your father? And your sister, if you have one? Who will lose a pair of young men like you and be without a brother? No one can tell who will suffer such a fate. The workings of the gods proceed along mysteriously, and no one knows the disaster to come. Fortune takes us at random into an uncertain future. Where have you come from, unlucky guests?
Why show this pity, lady, whoever you are, and add to our pain on top of the evil to come? I do not think it clever for a man about to die to try to overcome the fear of annihilation with pity, nor, if anyone pities a man on the brink of death without hope of his survival, since he adds to one evil a second, The change of foolishness in addition to the inevitability of death. What will be, we will be. What will be, will be. Do not bemoan our lot. We are fully aware of the customary sacrifices practiced in this place.
Which of you is called by the name of Pylades?
He is. If knowing this gives you some pleasure.
Are you brothers, born of the same mother?
In affection, yes, but we are not brothers by blood.
What was the name that your father gave you?
The right name to call me would be unhappy.
That wasn't my question. Ascribe that to your luck.
If I die without a name, I will not be mocked.
Why do you begrudge me this? Are you so proud?
You will sacrifice my body, not my name.
Won't you tell me the name of the city you are from?
There's no benefit to what you ask me since I'm to die.
What makes you reluctant to do me this favor?
I claim the renowned Argos as my native city.
Dear gods, were you really born there, my friend?
Yes, in my scene. Once upon a time, it was prosperous.
Are you an exile from home, or what happened?
Yes, I am in an exile. In a way, both voluntarily and not.
Yet if you come from Argos, your presence here is welcome.
Not welcome to me, but if it is to you, enjoy it.
Perhaps you've heard of Troy. Its story is well known.
I wish I had never heard of it, not even in a dream.
Now, they say that it lies in ruins now, fallen to the spear.
That is so. What you heard was not an idle rumor.
And Helen? Has she come back home with Menelaus?
Yes, she has, bringing ruin to someone in our family.
Where is she? I too have an old charge against her.
She lives in Sparta with her husband from before.
An abomination to all of Greece, not just to me.
I too have had experience of her irregular marriage.
The Achaeans' homecoming, did it happen as reported?
You question me as if trying to grasp everything at once.
Before you die, I want to take in all the news I can.
If you desire it, ask your question. I will tell you.
There was a seer named Calchas. Did he return home?
He died. At least that was the going story in my scene.
Oh, thank God for that. And what about Odysseus?
He has not come back home, but is reported to be alive.
I hope he is lost and never reaches his homeland.
No need to curse him. His affairs are going badly.
Thetis, the Nereid had a son. Is he alive?
No. The marriage he celebrated at Alius was a waste.
Broad, too, as those who suffered it are aware.
Who are you then? You know a lot about Greece.
I'm from there. I was still a child when I was lost.
You have good reason to want to know what's going on.
What about the commander, the one that they call Happy?
Who is that? The one I know of is not so happy.
He was called King Agamemnon, son of Atreus.
I don't know. Please give up the storyline.
In God's name, tell me, friend, to make me happy.
He is dead, poor man, and has ruined someone else.
He is dead. How did it happen? I'm so sorry.
Yes. He died horribly, murdered by his own wife.
Just one more thing. Is the poor man's wife alive?
No. The son to whom she gave life took her life.
The house is in shambles. But why did he do it?
He wanted to take vengeance for his dead father.
An ugly kind of justice, even if he executed it well.
Though he did the right thing, he does not prosper.
Did Agamemnon leave another child in his house?
He left one unmarried daughter, the girl Electra.
Is there any word of the daughter he sacrificed?
None, except that she is dead and gone from the world.
I feel sorry for her. And for her father who killed her.
She's gone for a bad woman's thankless sake.
Son of the father killed in Argos, is he alive?
Yes, poor man. He is nowhere and everywhere.
Goodbye, false dreams. So you amounted to nothing.
You're right. But those gods we call wise are even more false than letting dreams. Among gods, there is confusion in abundance. Among mortals, too. This one thing pains me, that an intelligent man, because he trusted mouthings of seers, went to his ruin, as you can be sure he did.
What about us? What of our parents? Are they alive or dead? Who could tell us this?
Listen to me. I've come upon a train of thought that is of benefit to you, strangers, and also helps me achieve my desire. This turns out to best advantage if the same matter is pleasing to all concerned. Would you be willing, if I let you survive, to bring a message for me to my loved ones in Argos, and carry a letter which, out of compassion for me, a captive wrote, in the belief that it was not my hand that was his murderer, but that he was to die by law, a victim of the goddess who believes this to be right? You do not seem unfriendly to me, and are familiar with Mycenae and my people there. Save yourself and take this reward, not a trivial one. Your survival for carrying my letter, no weight at all. Since the state requires these rituals, let him be the offering to the goddess, separated from you.
Thank you for all that you have said. But for one thing, it is a heavy burden to me if he is to be slaughtered. I am the one who steered our cargo of disasters. He sailed along with me out of kindness for my toils. It is not right for me to earn your favor at the cost of his death and for me to be free of troubles. This is how it should be. Give your letter to him. He will deliver it to Argos. Set your mind at rest. This man is truly my friend. His life means as much to me as my own.
I wish my brother who survives would be just like you. Since this is what you prefer, I will send him to deliver my letter, and you will die.
Who will sacrifice me and carry out the awful rites?
I will. It is the duty I must administer to the goddess.
Do you, a woman, sacrifice men with the sword?
No, but I sprinkle their hair with the lustral waters.
What sort of funeral will dispose of me when I'm gone?
The sacred fire within and a deep cleft in the rock.
Ah, how I wish I could be laid out by my sister's land.
A futile wish you have uttered, poor man, whoever you may be, for she lives far from this alien land. Still, since you came from Argos, my homeland, I will not omit any service that I can offer your corpse. Your grave I will dress with an array of adornment, and I will anoint your body with golden olive oil, and onto your pyre I will cast the flower-scented honey, liquid sweetness of the dark mountain bee.
You who are destined for the sprinkling of lustral waters mixed with blood, I sing your dirge.
It is not a cause for pity, but farewell, friends.
And you, young man, we honor for your happy fortune that you will return to the land of your fathers.
It is no cause for envy to friends when friends die.
Oh, hard journeys. You are lost. Oh, which is worse? My mind pushes me two ways, whether to lament you first or you.
Who can this young woman be? Felt like a Greek, she asked us about the struggles in Troy.
You are ahead of me, and you say the same as I, except for one thing. The sad tales of kings are known to all if they have any claim to fame. But there is another matter I was thinking over.
What is it? By sharing it, you will make it clearer.
It is a disgrace for me to go on living if you die. With you, I set sail, and I must die with you. I will acquire a reputation for utter cowardice in Argos and in the rolling hills of the Phocians. It will seem to most people malicious as they are, that I saved myself by betraying you and returned alone, or even murdered you, seeing the troubles of your house, and caused your death for the sake of your kingdom, being husband of your sister, the last in line to inherit. These things I fear, and I consider them to be shameful. There is no other way. I must breathe my last with you.
Don't say such things. My troubles are mine to bear. When I can have a single grief, I will not choose two. What you call bitter and bringing reproach, this is the same for me if I will be the death of you, who shares my labors. To me, it is not an evil. If suffering as I suffer from the gods, I lose my life. If you survive, you and my sister, whom I gave to you in marriage, will have children together. My name would live on, and my father's house would not ever be obliterated and die out without an heir. But go, keep on living. Take over my ancestral home. When you reach Greece and Argos, land of horses, by my right hand I lay upon a solemn charge. Raise a mound for me and set up a monument. And let my sister offer tears and cut hair at the tomb. Farewell. I have found you the dearest of friends, my childhood companion, fellow huntsman. You have shared the many burdens of my troubles. Phobos the prophet has played me false with his devious schemes. To give to him, I gave all that I had. I obeyed his commands and killed my mother, and now I will die in return.
You will have a tomb, my poor friend. And I could never abandon your sister's bed. I will hold you dear in death, even more than while you lived.
Here, strangers, is my tablet with its many folds, but there is one more request I want to make.
What do you want then? What is it that troubles you?
Have him swear an oath to me that he will deliver my message to Argos to my loved ones there as I wish.
And will you in turn swear the same oath to him?
What would you have me do or not do? Tell me.
Let him depart with his life from this savage land.
Fair enough. How else could he deliver my message?
Will the country's ruler allow this to happen?
Yes, I will convince him and I will escort him to the ship.
Swear then. Begin the oath as it is ritually proper.
You must say, I will deliver this to your loved ones.
To your loved ones, I will deliver this letter.
If you break the oath and do me wrong, what then?
I'll never reach home. And if you do not save my life?
That while I live, I never set foot in my native Argos.
Grant me this exception. If something happens to the ship and the letter with the other goods is lost at sea and I escape with only my life, in that case, the oath will no longer be binding.
Here is what I shall do. Success takes many turns. All that is written in the folds of the tablet, I will tell you out loud so you can tell my friends. This is safer. If you're able to preserve the letter, though, without speech, it will tell what is written. But if the words that are written here are lost at sea, by saving yourself, you will save my words for me.
Well said, both for my sake and the gods. Indicate to whom I must deliver the letter in Argos and tell me what I should say.
Bring this news to Orestes, Agamemnon's son. She who was sacrificed at Aulis, Iphigenia, is alive.
Where is she? Has she come back from the dead?
I, whom you see here. But do not interrupt me. Bring me back to Argos, dear brother, before I die. Remove me from this savage land and the goddess's sacrifices at which I hold to the duty to kill strangers.
Pylades, what can I say? Where do we find ourselves?
Or I shall become a curse upon your house, Orestes. I repeat the name, so you will learn it.
Oh, gods.
Why do you invoke the gods in my affairs?
Oh, it's nothing. My thoughts strayed somewhere else.
Tell him that the goddess Artemis rescued me by substituting a deer, which my father slaughtered, believing he was thrusting the sharp sword into me. She brought me here to live in this country.
Oh, it is with an easy oath that you have bound me, and sworn most kindly. I shall not long hold off before paying back in full the oath that I took. Look here, Orestes. I deliver to you this letter that I've received from your sister standing here.
I accept it. For putting off the opening of the letter, I will first take a sweet pleasure, but not in words. My dear, dear sister, I am overcome with surprise, but I will embrace you in my doubting arms.
Sir, it is not right for you to sully the gods' attendant and put your hands on her sacred garments.
I have you as my brother. Please stop saying that. Did the Spartan, daughter of Tyndareus, give you life?
Yes, to the son of Pylades' son, whose son I am.
Is it so? Do you have any proof of this for me?
Yes, ask me anything about my father's house.
It is for you to tell me and for me to learn from you.
I'll begin with this, a story I heard from a lecturer. Do you know of the quarrel between Artemis and Tauris?
I have heard of it. There was a quarrel about a golden lamb.
Do you remember you wove this story into a fine weaving?
Dearest one, you're stirring up memories in my mind.
The image on the loom was the sun reversing course.
Yes, I wove that image with the twisting of fine threads. My dear, dear one, nothing else. You are dearest to me. I hold you, Orestes, all grown up, far from home, far from Argos, my dear.
And I you, long dead, so it was believed. Tears wet your eyes, just like mine, in keening mixed with joy.
I left you still a newborn baby in your nurse's arms, an infant in the house.
I pray we have a happy future with each other.
Dear friends, I have caught a strange joy, and I'm afraid he will flit away from my arms into thin air.
We are fortunate in our birth. But falling into tragedy, our lives, dear sister, are less than happy.
I know, from my own misery, when my grim-hearted father held the knife to my throat. No wedding song, dear brother, led me to Achilles' quarters, but a false marriage. Alas, that father dared such a deed. I'm sorry for my terrible daring. Terrible deeds I dared, terrible deeds, dear brother. Barely did you escape a sacrilegious death slashed by my hands. What will be the consequence of this? What chance will present itself? Oh, sorrowing heart, this is yours to find. By land will it be, not by sea, but with the rippling of feet will draw you near death, crossing through the savage tribes and impassable roads. Sorrow, oh, sorrow.
It's natural for loved ones to embrace when they first catch sight of one another, but it is time to break off these emotional scenes and consider how we will attain renown that comes with survival and escape from this savage territory.
Do not stop me nor put an end to our talk before I find out what manner of life Electra now enjoys. She's very much in my heart.
She's married to my friend here and has a happy life.
Where does he come from and whose son is he?
Stropius, in Folking, is known as his father.
Hello then, husband of my own dear sister.
Not just my relative, but the preserver of my life.
How did you have the heart to do what you did to mother?
Let's not talk about that. I had to revenge my father.
What was her reason for killing her husband?
No more about mother. It is not good for you to hear.
Did our uncle usurp when our family was in trouble?
No. The fear of the Furies drives me from my country.
I see. The goddesses hunt you because of mother.
To force me to bear a bloody bit in my mouth.
What brought you to set foot in this country?
I came here directed by the oracles of Phobos. This is how my tale of woes began. After what happened to mother, which we are not to speak about, because the furries began to hound me, I had been wandering in exile until Locus directed me to make my way to Athens to stand trial before the goddesses that may not be named. There is a solemn tribunal which Zeus established for Ares because he had blood on his hands. When I got there, at first none of the citizens were willing to welcome me, a God-detested man. Those who showed respect for me provided a table set apart from the others, but under the same roof. Without speaking to me or I to them, they contrived a way I might be isolated from their festivities. Each guest had his own jug filled with an equal measure of wine so they could enjoy themselves. And I did not feel that I could reproach my host, but I grieved in silence and pretended not to notice, greatly troubled because I was my mother's murderer. I have heard that my distress has been turned into a ritual by the Athenians, and it is still the custom for people of Pylades to celebrate the day of wine jugs. Then, when I came to the hill of Ares, I stood trial, taking my seat on one side of the court, and the eldest of Furies on the other. The arguments were made concerning the shedding of my mother's blood. Phobos testified on my behalf and saved my life at Palace. Presiding, counted out the equal votes, and I walked away, acquitted of the charge of murder. Those are the Furies who were persuaded by the trial marked off a holy sanctuary to keep beside the court. But those who were not persuaded by the verdict pursued me ceaselessly with homeless wandering until I went again to Phobos' sacred precinct, and abstaining from food, I prostrated myself before the shrine. I swore to end my life there and then, unless Phobos, who had caused my ruin, would save me. Then emitting a voice from the golden tripod, Phobos directed me here to carry off the statue dropped from the sky and to place it in Athenian land.
Before you came here, I was full of eagerness to be in Argos and to see you, my dear brother. I desire the same as you, to free you of your toils and to set right the troubled house of our fathers. I am no longer enraged at the man who killed me, but I'm afraid I could not escape the goddess or the ruler when he finds the stone pedestal empty and the image missing. I will surely be killed. What reason would I give? But if this can be done as one single action, you take both the statue and me together aboard the fine-built ship, the risk would be well worth it.
I could not be your murderer as well as my mother's. Her blood is enough. I feel the same as you. With you, I wish to live, or dying to share the same destiny. I will take you home. If I can get away from here, otherwise I will perish here and remain by your side. Listen to what I think. If this were objectionable to Artemis, how would her brother have advised me to transport the goddess image to Athena's city?
How will it be possible to avoid being put to death and to achieve the thing we want?
Do you suppose there's a way we could kill the ruler?
That's a terrible thing to say. Strangers murder their host.
But if it will save your life and mine, it must be dared.
I could not do it. Still, I'm touched by your enthusiasm. I have an idea. something just occurred to me. I will make use of your troubles as a trick.
Women are clever at figuring out intrigues.
I will say it's not right to sacrifice you to the goddess because you are polluted. It will make the pious uneasy. I'll say I want to cleanse you in the running seawater.
But the statue for which we sailed is still in the temple.
I will say I must wash that too since you touched it.
Where will you take it? To the sea's wave-swept inlet?
Yeah, where your ship is moored by its rope fastenings.
Will the king know, or will you do it in secret from him?
I'll have to persuade him. There's no way to avoid it.
There's only one thing left. That these women keep our secret.
Take heart, dear mistress, and save yourself. I will keep your secret in everything you ask.
Your role and yours now is to go inside the temple, since the king of the country will soon arrive to find out if the sacrifice of the strangers has been executed. Revered goddess, who saved me in the inlets of Aulis, from this terrible hand of my murderous father, rescue me yet again along with these men.
So with that, the play moves to something that reminds me of like a 1970s noir caper, where we're going to steal the ship and get away. Niall, if you can unmute yourself and join me, I have a bunch of questions to ask you about this play. I'm sure you may not love them all, or maybe you will. Let's start with this ending plan. Stealing the ship through subterfuge. It reminds me a lot of the ending of the Helen. Right, where there's a similar like ploy to come up with a funeral ship to get out of Egypt. Is this just random, or is this something Euripides is playing with, this type of escape scene?
There's some deep structure there. I think that whether it's conscious or not on Euripides' part, because we have the deception of the barbarian to make this possible. We have to fool the king here, as Helen and Menelaus have compounded a plot to fool the ruler in Egypt as well. So yes, that's very much the resemblance of the caper plot. I think it's kind of interesting, the details as it builds here in this scene. When they've recognized each other, they're ready to figure out what to do. Orestes' first thought is, let's kill the king.
Well, that reminds me of Euripides' Orestes, which is just like murder after murder.
Exactly. And yet, Iphigenia's answer, I suddenly thought of Stockholm Syndrome. She said, how terrible it is to kill your host. Your host is the guy who's trying to kill you, or ordering that you be killed. But, you know, we're playing from one emotion quickly to another, and that will then generate the next plot.
And let's be honest, Iphigenia has good reasons to mistrust people in authority, right?
She has a conflicted, she seems a little worried about Daddy when she's asking what has happened to him. So,
yes. I mean, when we get to the end, I have a bunch of questions for the actress, for Alice playing Iphigenia, about how coolly she's playing it. Because it has a casualness to it that I didn't expect, but which is really working. But let's talk about some of the recurring characters we get in this play and recurring scenes. So we get Orestes and Pylades again, right? I'm just off the top of my head, there are 5 other plays that the pair of them show up in together. Why do we keep seeing these two together? And what is going on with their friendship and closeness?
I wish I could review all 5. I go back to the surprising Pylades, who has something to say in the Oresteia when he might be a silent character, and then we build from there, not remembering all of the stages through the subsequent plays. But friendship is something that Greek tragedy, Greek culture thinks a great deal about, and sometimes worries about. Does friendship create contests with other loyalties? But somehow Pylades and Orestes become archetypal friends who rely completely on each other, and we have this contest here. Euripides takes it to a peak in staging this contest between the two of them to over who gets to die for the other one, for whom will it be more disgraceful to survive, leaving it with this wonderful irony that, in fact, if Pylades just carries this letter back, he will find out exactly what he's worried about happening, because he will have left Orestes to be killed. Beyond that, I follow more the building of the melodramatic emotion than I see a master plan under the meditation on friendship. But maybe you have some thoughts.
And I mean, we may need to think about these things in context, because another thing I thought, in this recognition scene, how much do you think that Euripides is playing on the trope of recognitions, and how much is he engaging with the specific Orestes being reunited with the sister motif, right, that we see with Electra in a few other plays as well? Would audiences be thinking of those scenes as well?
Oh, definitely the sister recognition, absolutely. And he's supplying lots of verbal clues that the audience will be well ahead of the characters. This is one of the reasons I certainly will not say that this is a comic tragedy, but the audience's superior knowledge to the characters is tapping into a kind of enjoyment that one sees in comedy, where it's part of the enjoyment of the play is the superiority over the confused characters here. So yes, it's picking up on Electra themes, and we're reminded by that by Iphigenia insisting that she ask about Electra before we go on to solve the problem of how they're going to get out of there. Whether there's recognition in a philosophically elaborated sense, they haven't read Aristotle yet, but clearly the plays talk about this regularly, and Euripides is well aware of that.
So, and the theme of recognition, of course, goes back at least to the Odyssey, where we learn with Odysseus that to really return to himself, he has to find who he is in the members of his family. So it's mutual for these figures. But one of the things that you mentioned when we were chatting, Niall, is this device of the letter that Aristotle mocks, right? The letter that reveals recognition. But this letter is weird because it doesn't actually do what it says it's going to do. Right? We don't actually need it. So what's going on? Is this another comic motif? Is Euripides anticipating an Aristotle? What should we think of this letter play?
It's playing with interesting things. In Pylades worries about what will happen to him when he goes back to Greece with this letter and has survived, I heard almost a distorting mirror of the original letter story and I think it's a letter, in Greek literature, which is Bellerophon and the baleful signs, the letter he carries, and the king's supposed to execute him on the basis of that. Yes, it's a very weird letter. On the other hand, it's grounded in some things that the audience will accept even as 5th century reality. She's had to have the letter written by a kindly captive that who ends up getting killed anyway, because she's not literate. Her capacity for speech at a distance relies on somebody else being able to put those words in there. And we flirt with the possibility, because if the letter was used as it intended, it would be a very tragic ending. It's only Pylades' objection to the oath, what will happen if I can't deliver the letter, even though I really mean to, because it went down with the ship, that opens out everything, gives us the message. And we've had that set up because Orestes was resolutely refusing to give his name. It is only when Iphigenia says, give this to Orestes, the son of Agamemnon. I got a chill when that was performed here, and I'm sure the audience does every time, because it's finally the name. It's simply the address that opens out everything.
Right, and again, to do more Homeric echoes, right? That moment of naming as power, right? It specifies and limits Orestes and it is plotting. So I look forward to more of your comments about the performance when we get to the end. We're going to have 2 scenes together now. We're going to stop and sort of summarize between them. After the last scene, the chorus came on stage and they lamented their missed homeland Greece and their sorrow, and they talked about homesickness, and nostalgia becomes a dominant theme of the choral ode. After which, King Thoas, the tyrant Orestes was so ready to kill, enters the scene, and Iphigenia joins him.
Where is the guardian of this precinct, the woman from Greece? Have the strangers been consecrated? Are their bodies ablaze with fire in the holy shrines?
Here she is. She will tell you everything clearly, my king.
My God, daughter of Agamemnon, why have you taken the image of the goddess in your arms? It must not be moved from its base.
Stop, my king. Stay there in the forecourt, away from the door. Avert the sacrilege. To Holiness herself I utter these words. My king, the victims you have stalked for me are not clean.
What is your proof? Or are you expressing your opinion?
The image of the goddess turned around on its pedestal.
All on its own? Or did an earthquake cause it to shift?
All on its own. And besides that, it closed its eyes.
And what was the cause? Was it the strangers' pollution?
That was it. No other cause. They have done awful things. They came here after committing murder in their family. With swords they joined to strike down their mother.
Apollo! Not even a savage would dare such a thing.
They are persecuted and driven out everywhere in Greece.
Is it because of this that you are carrying the statue outside?
Yes, to remove the stain of murder under the pure sky.
What are we to do about the strangers? Tell me this.
We must honour the law that has been established. First, I would like to wash them in sacred cleansings.
In fresh water streams or in the waters of the sea?
The sea washes away all the troubles of humanity.
Don't the waves wash up right against this temple?
We need solitude. Well, there are other things we have to do.
Well, as you wish. I do not care to see what is forbidden.
I must also purify the image of the goddess.
In case it has been tainted by the stain of matricide.
Otherwise, I would not have lifted it from its base.
Put the strangers.
Put the strangers in chains.
It will be done.
Cover their heads in cloaks.
Out of sight of the sun.
Send someone to proclaim to the citizens.
What should he tell them?
That they must all stay inside their homes.
To avoid the pollution of murder?
Yes, such things are unclean. You stay here in front of the temple and...
What should I do?
Purify the building with a torch.
So you will find it pure when you return?
The strangers come outside.
What should I do then?
Cover your face with your clothing.
Lest I catch the pollution.
If I seem to be gone too long...
What time limit should I set?
Do not be surprised.
Take care of the goddess's affairs. There is no hurry.
To the citizens, I say, stay clear of this pollution. Whoever is a temple guard with hands pure for the gods, or is about to be married, or is carrying a child, move away. Withdraw. Let the pollution not fall on you. O Virgin Queen, daughter of Zeus and Leto, if I wash the blood from these men and make the perfect sacrifice, your house will be clean and we will be blessed.
So with that, the scene is set for them to make their great escape. And the chorus in the scene in between sing the praises of Apollo before a messenger shows up and reports the deceit and the flight of Iphigenia, Pylades, and their stolen cargo, that precious statue of Artemis. So they got away with it all, but the play's not over yet. A storm has prevented their departure and keeps them in harbor. Unless the sea suddenly and miraculously calms, the trio will be quickly recaptured. And our final scene is between that King Thoas and the goddess Athena.
All you citizens of this barbarian nation, hurry, rein your horses, race to the shore to take in the wreckage of the Greek ship with the help of our goddess. With all haste, hunt down and capture these godless men. Some of you drag swift-oared ships into the sea so that by sea and by land on horseback we may catch them and throw them down from the rough crag or impale them on pikes. And you, women, accomplices in this plot, later, when I have the leisure, I will see that you are punished. Now, with this urgent business at hand, I will not stand idly by.
I ask you, King Thoas, where are you taking this pursuit? Attend to the words of Athena, standing above you. Call off the manhunt. Do not deploy your troops. Orestes came here destined by Apollo's oracles and fleeing from the angers of the Furies to bring his sister back to Argos and convey the sacred image into my land to earn a respite from his present sufferings. Orestes, be instructed by my commands. Though far away, you can hear my divine voice. Make your way, taking the image and your sister. When you reach Athens, built by the gods, there is a place at the furthest borders of Attica, a holy site. The people of Athens have named it Heli. Build a temple there to the house of the goddess statue, to be called after the land of Troy and the toils which you have endured, wandering all through Greece, goaded by the Furies. Mortals forever after will sing of her goddess Artemis Tauris. Lay down this custom. When the people celebrate in atonement for your sacrifice, let the sword be held to the man's neck and let the human blood flow. For the ritual lost, that the goddess may have honor. And you, Iphigenia, around the sacred terraces of Brauron, you must be the keeper of the temple. And there you will be buried when you die, and they will honor you with fine woven gowns that women who die in childbirth leave in their homes. Now, son of Agamemnon, take your sister and leave this country. And you, Thoas, do not be angry.
Queen Athena, anyone who hears God speak and remains unbelieving is out of his mind. I bear no grudge toward Orestes if he is gone, carrying the goddess's image, nor towards his sister. What good comes of opposing the mighty gods?
So there, we end the play with an enigmatic intervention by Athena, like many of Euripides' other plays, and without really any explanation for the play as a whole. So for me, before we can get to the actors, I'd like Niall to come in again and talk to me a little bit about that resolution. Because we have this play that's a madcap caper in part, recognition scene in part, and then we get this anger of Thoas at the end, and Athena coming in and, wiping everything clean. What do you make of the dramatic structure of this play and where it ends up?
One can start with the typical charge against a deus ex machina, or here dea ex machina ending. We put Athena up there above the palace of Thoas, possibly on the crane, on the Mekane, to have this divine epiphany and straighten everything out. possibly because I think about the play more, at which the audience seeing it the first time perhaps wouldn't think about all of these things, but there are such interesting silences and evasions in how one builds toward that ending again. This time I was struck by Poseidon's role in this. Yes, he calms the storm at the end, but we've had some warnings of his activity before, because Poseidon is also the earth shaker, the god of earthquakes, which Iphigenia dreamed about at the very beginning of the play, and Thoas mentions as the only possibility, as a naturalistic possibility, maybe the statue has moved. And of course, it is Athena to show up naturally in Athens, the patron goddess of the city, but it's not Artemis endorsing the rescue of her statue. It's not Apollo who commanded it. It's somebody on the divine level standing outside this to say, it's all right, there's a purpose here. Yes, some in the audience are certainly going to fight against that, but apparently the audience accepted it, as Thoas does.
So I know that you seemed reluctant before to historicize this play and put it in the Peloponnesian War conflict. But one thing that people often do when thinking about this play is think post-Sicilian expedition and the Athenians really seeing the hard side of war. How much of that background helps us understand the strange sort of escapism at the end of this play? Or would you resist that completely?
I wouldn't resist it completely, but I don't think that that's a sufficient explanation by any means for this play, or even the spate of plays, which again I think can be an illusion of survival, that these are the plays where Euripides is suddenly giving us hope and solutions at the end of tragedies instead of bodies scattered all over the place. I'd be willing to think more about it, but and I would concede that that can be fit in with the notion that, again, it is Athena. It is particularly the city's patron goddess who provides this reassurance. In this play, though, with its very personally grounded sense of salvation, as I said, I've also been thinking about the poor chorus here at the end. These Greek women, choruses are often enslaved women, but not so often Greek women, uncharacterized, are the ones being left behind. It's not their rescue, it's just that of our title actors and characters. So to see that as a broader reassurance in the ending in the face of the war, I guess I still resist, but I'm willing to think more about it.
I'm with you in the perplexity. And one of the things that happens in this play, and Emma, who does the scene selection, I'd like you to jump in here. We make different plays when we make the selections. This is one of the largest, here you had one of the largest unbroken selections, but you probably took out the chorus the most. So I want to get back to Niall's musing on the chorus, but can you talk a little bit about what influenced your scene selection for this week?
Absolutely. I unironically adore this play. I think that this play is one of the strangest, weirdest, most Euripidean genre-bendy pieces of the canon that we have, and I believe it is a crime that it is not read, performed, and taught more. In terms of, and I wanted to honor that really kind of joyful insanity that exists in this play and that exists in, and I know I mentioned this to Lana and to a few other people, that this is a heist. This is as close as tragedy ever gets to being Ocean's 11, and this is as close to tragedy ever gets to having these kind of cool Bond moment action movie style payoffs, especially with, and something that was so technically cool this week was the handoff of that letter and that moment of, building audience expectation like you've been saying, of this moment of comic enjoyment with the recognition that we get between Orestes and Iphigenia, and Pylades facilitating that with the handover of this letter that is so, for lack of a better word, cool.
Yeah,
it's incredibly slick, and I wanted to honor that, and I wanted to honor the moment of Iphigenia getting to lie through her teeth in increasingly ridiculous ways and being believed the entire time, which is wonderful. And I'm glad that that was something that got to be included, but it did mean that the chorus got a little bit sidelined, which I am sad about.
Well, and you can imagine a Soderbergh-esque sequence of showing the letter from one frame to another, matched by the end as the statue being taken out. So there's that. But one of the things I'd like to talk to the chorus about perhaps first, Marietta, if you're willing to log back in, is that the tonality of Euripidean plays can be really hard to sense. And one of the things Niall pointed out is that the women are captive. They're enslaved women who don't get to leave. They don't get to escape. And some of their laments are truly powerful. So when you were inhabiting the chorus, what sort of mindset were you giving it? And what sort of perspective do you think the chorus takes on the events?
Well, I think, there's this one aspect of how the chorus is the observer, sort of witnessing of the event, and then there's another part where, especially after Iphigenia has come up with her plot, where the chorus is in cahoots with her, and reassures her that I, as the chorus, am going to keep her secret. But then there's, I guess, a third aspect of it, which is, as people have been saying, that as the leader, I and my women, we get left behind. And even in the early pages, I think my first line is something asking about my parents, and I'm ignored. Nobody acknowledges me. Nobody responds to me. I mean, I know that there were cuts in the script, but these three elements were all there, very present to me. As an actress, I just tried to be very much in the moment of the action and respond to what was going on around me, what was being said to me.
And and that came through. And I have to ask Niall here. Niall, do you think it's beyond Euripidean stagecraft to use the chorus and the chorus not being answered to make a larger statement about the marginalization of those enslaved women?
Oh no, I think that could be very deliberate there, that Euripides is as sensitive to the sounds as to the silences as to the sounds. And we have no idea how the staging works versus a normal play. Eventually the chorus has to leave, but what does the picture look like when everyone else has escaped and the chorus is still stuck there? So yes, I think that's very much part of it.
And I think everyone can expect that I want to immediately leap to the chorus as that middle space between the audience, right, and the players. And to what extent is this about the audience sort of being marginalized by the great events? We'll leave that for a minute because I want to get to Alice as Iphigenia. Alice, Iphigenia in other roles, in other plays, especially, the brief memory she gets in the Agamemnon or her voice in the Owless, is this sort of young, ingenuous, which is sort of what I expected and what I read when I was reading the play. But you gave her a lot more depth and caginess. In your mind, what is Iphigenia like? And how do we interpret her series of questions, which are really almost endless and infuriating?
Well, I suppose in truth and to be completely honest, I don't know the character outside of this play. So in a way, for me, that was quite refreshing because I just approached it from what I had in the text. And in this bit of text that we have, I felt like perhaps she does kind of grow up. I mean, she's obviously been through quite a lot. So maybe there's a kind of, I think she felt quite knowing and quite kind of together weirdly, even though obviously what she's doing is horrendous at the start. And I think, I don't know, the way the translation and everything just felt very kind of matter of fact and slightly comedic, as you were saying earlier. And so I thought there was just something that spoke to me of somebody who was kind of quite sort of straightforward, upfront, and potentially, because she's sort of lonely as well. Like it felt like she was just desperate to have these people around, and actually it was great to have conversations and remember home. And I just felt like she was kind of lonely and young and looking for company, which is where the questions I think come in at the beginning.
And what I think I alluded to before, I kept thinking the way that you two were pacing it, and Brian, Orestes, if you would come in now, I'd like to talk to you too. The way you paced it felt less like a madcap caper and more like noir, where you're sitting at a cafe table, smoking cigarettes, talking around the issue. And I found that pacing fascinating because I never would have anticipated it. Right. So, Brian, I think you may have been in some of them before where we had an Orestes, and things can get pretty crazy around Orestes.
Yeah.
What is your Orestes doing? Is he world weary? Is he like just sick of stuff? What's going through his mind in this scene with Iphigenia?
Well, fortunately, I had some good guidance in approaching Orestes this time, and I definitely approached him from the sense of just honestly being like, hey, this is my fate, this is what it is, and not necessarily world weary, but he knows what this world is already. So he's just like, it is what it is, kind of.
Yeah. I found the way that the two of you played the questions about the father and the mother to be so against what I expected, which is a little high drama, and instead just sort of matter of fact. And the way you get together with a relative after many years and you do all the updates without all the emotion because you don't really know how to read someone. So I found that really convincing and powerful, right? It was really a nice counterweight to what we've seen in other places. Now, as a counterweight, we have Pylades. Paul, you got to pose and speak this week. How do you feel about this Pylades compared to the one you were last week?
Well, I mean, he at least has some words this time of his own, which was kind of interesting. But it also felt interesting to me how he didn't talk for an extremely long time within that scene, and I sort of felt throughout that long passage. And obviously, I know that Emma had done some sort of brilliant judicious cuts within it, but it's such an extraordinary event for Pylades and the chorus to be witnessing. And you kind of feel sort of a bit sort of in the way. And then there's that moment where Pylades suddenly has to say, look, this is so great and I'm so happy that you're both happy, but there's this guy who wants to kill us. We should probably get a move on and carry this conversation on a bit later. Yeah. Because it just sort of so entirely becomes sort of about that central relationship. And obviously, then Pylades has an intense love for Orestes as well, and is kind of very clearly sort of going to go to wherever he will follow wherever Orestes leads.
So, and I wonder how much his effectiveness, Niall, I guess is a question for you. Him being silent and then talking, was this a shtick people were ready for? Like when Pylades came on stage, would an Athenian audience be waiting to see if this would be a quiet one or a talkative one?
I think that relates to the notion of whether there's been a restaging of the Oresteia recently to remind them of that. And yes, I think there is a feeling of playing with that because he is silent for a long time. And then he does have a lot and essential things to say. Right. He's not in the way. He's an essential part of that triangular composition. Here's the letter for Orestes to Pylades. Pylades, here's the letter for Orestes. You're right here. Orestes can now embrace Iphigenia. It's essential.
Right, and it's a very Euripidean thing to do, right? Like he's silent mostly in one play, he talks once another, and Euripides is going to do them both and bigger. Yeah. Right? Well, for me, as I talked about at the transition, one of the challenging things about this play is the end. and the character of Thoas. We'll talk to Athena, Noree in just a minute. But Tim, Thoas is a big presence who has very little background or build up. He's just a foreign tyrant who has big feelings and big things to say. How did you approach this character? And can you relate him to any other characters you've played?
Yeah, he sort of just bulldozes into the show, and I think it feels like a comedy from where I'm sort of sat as Thoas, because he's got this kind of sort of tyrannical aspect to him, and then suddenly the rug keeps being pulled from under his feet. He kind of the scene with Iphigenia is sort of brilliant, because he's sort of so angry when he encounters her coming out of the temple with the statue. He thinks that he's going to kind of sort of throw his weight around, and then suddenly she spins it on its head, and he sort of seems all meek and mild and very kind of, he's going to do and agree with everything that she says. And there's just a lovely sort of about face that happens very, very quickly in front of the audience's eyes before you've even really got to know this character. Yeah, it's a fun, sort of interesting play. And I don't know much about Thoas prior to this in terms of
Nobody does.
Yeah, right, okay. But
so that's why what you bring to him is interesting, because you're not making him up entirely, but you're pretty much just sort of breathing life into a two-dimensional figure.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of, he's described, he's talked about a little bit before his entrance as being this king, this fearful tyrant. He doesn't sound particularly great. He's burning people on the pyre, and you know, and so I guess it's just fun to sort of burst onto the scene and give it some, and then, you know, very, very quickly he gets his comeuppance.
Yeah, but it's not as bad as it could be. And the comeuppance comes from Noree, who's Athena. Noree, do you ever get to play mortal characters? Because the last time you were here, you were Thetis, the sea nymph. So do you specialize in goddesses? Or
yes.
Is that
You know, I love the goddess roles. I think especially there's so much congruency in the madness that can happen in these plays and the madness that can happen in real life. And sometimes we wish that there was, well, when they're playing the good guys, someone to swoop down and give the comeuppance that's due to the Mad King. But the way Tim played Thoas was so fun, and it gave me, in this particular case, even more motivation to swoop down.
So, I mean, for both of you, those roles, they're critical roles, but you spend most of the play cooling your heels. So, Noree, how do you, in roles like that, how do you maintain your focus to be ready to descend and make everything right in the world of human beings?
I literally imagine myself sitting on a cloud looking at these mortals and all the mess that they're making and figuring out, okay, enough is enough. Even from the very beginning, the conversations that are happening when Orestes is about to die, it's just...
What I love about that comment is, you know, in the Odyssey, the gods are looking down at mortals and complaining about them in book 1. Mm-hmm. And then Athena doesn't come down and fix everything until book 24. So 12,000 lines later. I'm glad that you waited only one play.
Only one. Maybe I enjoy this a little bit because it is a bit like a soap opera to watch it happen and then just intervene and wait. But then the gods bring a bit of chaos themselves. When the people celebrate, let's just slit someone's throat in celebration of this honor.
And that's one of the final lines of the play is that "Tuck crayon, necessity rules gods and men."
I apologize for the technical delay. I am using someone else's laptop, but these are so good. Athena says, very good. Necessity rules both you and the gods. Go winds, conduct Agamemnon's son into Athens. I shall sail with them myself to protect the sacred image of my sister. And that, that is the end.
Niall, I know you've probably seen lots of performances, thought about them a lot before. What's your experience then, or your response to seeing readings in the Zoom format? What do you get out of it? And what are some things you think we could do with it in the future?
Oh, what a lovely question. Of course, it shifts to some degree to the aesthetic of video over the aesthetic of theater, because everybody's always in close-up, and therefore maybe it's also, and I'm very happy with the choices that Emma made here, but that puts us much more into the sense of the characters than the presence of the chorus, whether it's represented by one voice or several voices in this format. And yet it also brings us very much back to the language. Like you, I was discovering wonderful new things in the Iphigenia and Orestes dialogue there, because that would often be played much more melodramatically, much faster, much more heightened emotion. And in this smaller frame, it works so beautifully to be the conversation it was. So I think you're working with the medium that you've got very well. I'm not sure I can speculate beyond that, but I think you've tapped into what is precisely good about seeing this up close and personal in this format.
And that's one of the things, I mean, it's been revelatory for me, sort of each week seeing the scenes and the interactions between them. So I know some people are still watching this on YouTube. I've been encouraged to encourage you to ask questions in that format and to give it a like if you like it. And if you watch this recorded later, ask some questions. We'll lurk and maybe answer them. In the meantime, this week, we also had the translator watching us on YouTube. So Emma, if you could thank the translator for us. I know you were involved in choosing this translator. Give her a shout out.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much to Cecilia Luschnig for allowing us access to her translation this week. That was not open access, that we got permission to do, and she was so generous with her time and with her energy. This translation is absolutely magnificent, and I am so grateful to her that she was kind enough to let us use it. It has such a warmth and energy and speed, and yes, thank you so much.
And I thank you too. Another pleasure of this has been experimenting with different translations and seeing how much more vibrant and lively some are as compared to others. And this was a good one. We're going to close today with an announcement about something of our next stage in this process. Last week was our 20th of 40 projected episodes, and we may go farther than that because Paul is an ambitious man. And he's got some great plans. But we're moving outward into a competition stage. So we brought back Amy Pistone to help introduce this with Paul. She's not here this week to convince me that the Trachinian Women is a good play, but she is going to talk about our new school competition involving scenes from Medea. So Amy?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me back. And I'm really excited to be working with Joel and with Paul we're going to be focusing on the play The Medea and doing a series of different scenes that we've selected that high school and college students will be invited to perform some sort of, put together some sort of a short performance. There should be about 5 to 10 minutes when we'll make those scenes available, but and really explore different ways to perform, read, think about, engage with Greek tragedy, especially in this sort of video, socially distanced world. We have a lot of, really excited to see what people do with these projects. And so this is going to be a project that we're launching in the US in this next week. Next week or so, we should have all the information available. And we would love to get English classes, drama clubs, as well as classic students involved in whatever capacity. And there's a cash prize, which is very exciting as well.
Paul, do you want to add or?
Yeah, I just want to say that we're kind of really excited about this stage of things, and the all the information is up on the Out of Chaos website, and the link is going to be in the description for this YouTube video, so you can see it there. And as Amy was saying, the scenes will be available to download from that website soon, but already there are numerous things that you can download and look at to kind of inspire you for what you may want to choose. There's a fabulous ebook created by the Archive for Performances of Greek and Roman Drama, and Emma has created some brilliant dramaturgy packs as well to kind of inspire ideas for how you might think about staging some of these scenes. The deadline for submissions will be October the 23rd, and then we'll be announcing winners on the 11th of November, which is the day that we'll be reading the Medea as part of this series. And the US competition is launching sort of now, and then we will also be having a UK-based competition, which will be launching early September.
And if I could just jump in, I'm sorry, one more quick thing. We did confirm that Canada is also extremely welcome to participate in the US base. So for our Canadian schools, I'm not sure exactly where this will fall within the school year starting up for Canada, but as we are rolling out the US, Canada is very welcome to participate as well.
Absolutely. I apologize to Canada for wiping them off the map there. And also worth saying that there'll be, it's open to high school, university groups, the more the merrier.
And we should state, of course, that we have funding from other organizations to support this. So we have a grant from, Classics Everywhere from the Society for Classical Studies. Who else is helping us out with the funding?
And the Centre for Hellenic Studies is also supporting this project. So a huge thanks again to them. And if I can then add, in addition to this competition launching, we will also, to mark sort of the halfway point of this series, this coming Saturday, so the 22nd of August at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be reading the entire of Sophocles' Electra. So normally we're just reading scenes, and we read some scenes last week from the Electra, and we'll be reading all of it in one go with a cast of 10 using Paul Woodruff's fantastic translation. So please do catch that, and it'll be available on all the usual places through the CHS website or on their YouTube page.
Thank you, Paul. I think that's going to be phenomenal. We got a preview of that last week. While we're thanking the Center for Hellenic Studies, let's thank their crew for making this all possible. Associate Director Liz, Amy for doing our outreach, Emma Pauley for doing selections every week, Lana for being our executive producer, and then the crew of Keith, Helen, Sarah, Janet, John Coley doing his posters, and Ali helping him design them all the way throughout. It's been a fantastic process so far, and we're just over the halfway point. Next week, on August 26th, we'll be seeing Euripides' Hippolytus. So our Euripidean theme is not over yet. In the meantime, I hope you all can join us for Electra this Saturday. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.